Oh, go for it, Joe. Shake that ass, man. You must like this tune. Look at you boogieing away there, dude.
Boo.
Oh, boogie woogie, man. You liking it, Joe? You liking it?
No.
You love it, man. Ready? Somebody, of course, has got it on in the background. Somebody turn it down. Turn it down. Turn it down. Feedback.
Can't hear Joe.
Oh, go for it, Joe.
Someone
Shake that ass,
turn
man.
it
You must
down.
like this. Look at you boogieing away there, dude.
Oh,
Boo.
Oh, boogie woogie, man. You liking it, Joe? You liking it?
No. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, Joe, did you have to ruin it all with that feedback there, man? Come on, dude. Amateur hour.
Hey, look. You can blame me all you want,
Amateur hour.
but you have to look at the mute Nazi for that one.
I would have played it again, but no, I just can't handle Joe Joseph jumping about, dancing like he was. How are you doing, gentlemen? And we're back. We're live. I was here just a short time ago with Nano Girl, but now I have adopted the weekender mode. Time to get a bit crazy with the guys here. This is the show where all of the hard work I've put in all week on the Kev Baker show goes up in the air, and I lose all of those new subscribers that we worked so hard to gain, because today people get to see real Kev and the fact that, well, I just like to have a laugh about most things that are going on, but that tends to offend people these days. So before we launch into things, if you are a member of the channel, you will notice we have got a new emoji. Wah, wah, wah. We need some kind of sound effect. Yes, we have got the Popeye beard emoji. Yes, Jihad Popeye, as I call him. He is there now. And if you want to use the Jihad Popeye in the chat room, all you got to do is consider giving a membership on the channel. YouTube were very kind to give the channel memberships. So for $5, you can get to use Popeye, the gay Alex Jones. Well, gay frog Alex Jones. Would I say Alex Jones is gay? I love Alex. We also have the smoking Elon. And Jimmy, please move your ear back from your microphone or I'll have to cut your headphones clean off. So guys, with that said, we're back, we're live. Another week's gone by. Heap of crazy shit has happened in the meantime. What's happening? I'll come to you first, Joda.
Oh, not too much, man. Been a wild week and glad that it's over. And here we go. Here comes the next week, getting ready to hit you like a nail bat.
You know it's going to be even crazier than the one that's just gone by. That's the only thing you can guarantee these days, that every week gets just that slightly bit more batshit crazy. And whether it's Russian collusion triggering Scotty or something else, Scott, there's going to be plenty more for us to talk about this week, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. So now they're acting like Russian collusion doesn't exist anymore.
Is there any Russians in the chat room? Any Russians in there? You know how there's Russians hiding everywhere. I was just wanting to see if there's any Russians in the chat room. Russian collusion in the chat room. Mr. Golden V. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, I do suit the beard, I think. Looking very toxic in my misogynist ways. Yes.
Yeah. Now they're blaming the flooding in Nebraska and the Midwest. They're blaming it on climate change and global warming and all that good stuff. So
was it Al Gore that done it?
AOC, your lovely AOC, was ranting and raving and saying people were dying and we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die, Kev.
Don't you love it when she gets angry? Don't you think she becomes even sexier when she's angry? No, that face says it all. And moving swiftly on to Jimmy before Scott decides to turn into the Incredible Hulk and rip my head off. How's it going, Jimmy, man? And he's
it's going fantastic, yeah.
Now there he is, there he is. Jimmy, you're in a different dimension from the rest of us, dude. How you doing?
Doing good. The sun finally came out in California, which is good because most people live here because of the sun. So when you don't see it, I mean, I was getting ready to start floating an arc because it's been raining so hardcore for the last
Only
I
Joe.
don't know, man.
Only
It's
Joe
been more
gets
than
to.
40 days and 40 nights. I'll
Dude,
tell you that.
Jimmy,
It's
only
been
Joe gets to declare when it's arc time. He is the man when it comes to the arc. So only Joe can declare
It has been pretty damp, Kev. I mean, I got to admit, like,
are we getting close, Joe? Are you starting to get the wood in? Are you starting to build us a boat?
no boats yet.
No boats
No
just
boats
yet.
yet.
Somebody in the
No.
chat room asking about my manscaping. Again, how do you people know that I manscape? I'm starting to think there's cameras in my bathroom, Joe.
But you're in the UK. There is cameras in your bathroom.
Yeah, that's just standard, you know? We've become so...
So all it takes is somebody tapping into it, buddy.
That's it, dude. That's it. Hey, who knew? My manscaping habits are public knowledge. Who knew? So where do we start today, boys? What craziness have you found for us? What's Joe typing here frantically? Oh yes, on you go, Joe. Go. I won't man shame you. Yeah, Joe's away at the toilet. Everyone will man shame him. But no, we've
And
got.
speaking of piss, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, don't you start on this again, please. We'll have to play your advert one time that you've made up. We'll definitely. The chat room
yeah,
now, they're all thinking, what advert's Kev talking about? Well, we'll catch you, one night when people aren't waiting for it. We won't do it today, though. Definitely not today, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Definitely
no, but yeah, seriously though, no, there's so much to talk about. I mean, there is so much going on in this world that it's literally the world is our oyster at this point. But you got to figure out, Scotty, if you're eating oysters, do you chew when you eat your oyster, or do you just slide it on back, just
I've
right
never
down
had
the throat?
oysters, man. I've never had these aphrodisiacs from the sea. Do they work like they say? Did they give you like the...
Wait. You never had oysters before?
I've never had oysters before, dude. No. I've never had oysters. I've never had lobster. And I like seafood.
kidding me?
Yeah, man.
You're kidding.
I'm
You've
not
never had
kidding.
lobster?
No. Just never. The opportunity's just never kind of presented itself, dude. I would in a heartbeat. It was lovely, man.
Can you even buy lobsters over where you're at?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
How much do they cost?
Oh, God knows, dude.
How much? For a
I'll be
lobster?
making
A
it
big
up. I have no... It's something you either know or you
You
don't.
don't know.
And since I
never
don't
ate,
eat
he's
them...
never ate them,
Yeah,
so
since I
how
don't
would he
eat
know
them,
what the
Search
price
it up on the internet right now, and everybody can donate so Kev can get some lobster.
Oh,
Check
gee
it
whiz,
out.
man. My trolls are going to love this. Kev sitting crying about the fact he's never eaten
ain't
lobster
crying.
just to
No,
try and
I'm
get some
saying-
donos in. That's terrible, Jimmy, man.
I'm just saying, you got
Let's get Kev a lobster. Let's get Kev a lobster.
Kev and AOC, having dinner, a couple of lobsters,
and a cake
Oh,
with
no.
AOC's face on it with one candle.
Jimmy, that sounds quite
I'm sure-
sinister, dude. From you, that sounds
God.
sinister, man.
And I'm
That
hearing
candle-
a lot of. I'm
That
hearing,
candle's putting out too much CO2 though, so we'd have to find an alternative means of lighting that cake up.
you
Exactly,
go.
exactly.
Hearing a lot of interesting things about AOC. Some things that are too tantalizing to leave alone. Like one of them was that she answered a casting call to be the person that was going to be that congressperson. Have you guys heard this?
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, do you think there's anything wrong with it?
Asking the wrong person, dude. I think they're all puppets. It's like I said to Nano. At least we're openly seeing that how a puppet is born. In this case, this is how it's done, and everyone's controlled by somebody in politics. You know my take on it. So I think we're just seeing what happens all of the time.
Well, here's my idea. What's wrong with it? In other words,
In the end of the day, it's a
words,
job
Brit-
interview, isn't it? So they're putting out an advert for a job to be fulfilled, Jimmy. We need somebody that's going to be bright. We need somebody that's going to be good at talking.
right?
Yeah, so absolutely, Jimmy. It's more honest than somebody just coming along and saying they're all organic and, hey.
Here's a good one too. It's like so when you do that, you're putting forward a character, just like, say, for example, like when you have a Britney Spears. Britney probably can sing at some level, but she doesn't sing like what you hear on the record, and she definitely is not singing when she's dancing around and stuff. It's impossible to sing, from your diaphragm when you're running around, jumping around. So she's lip syncing. So at the point that we got to lip syncing being okay, then we got characters that we put in these positions that look good.
Do you ever think Jimmy's measured her ears, Scott? Do you think Jimmy's looked at her ears yet? Come on,
man,
Jimmy.
I'm just saying.
I'm having a laugh.
You can hire a lip syncer. You can put out a casting call for a lip syncer. A lip syncer will show up. You pay the lip syncer and tell the lip syncer what to say and hand the lip syncer the script. And the lip syncer sings the song that you hand them, or they say the words on the script just like a politician.
Exactly. It's all the same, dude. Like I say, Scott, I've always said they're all actors. They're all playing a part. If we're seeing them, there's a reason for it, right?
Well, definitely. There's always somebody above them pulling the strings, and they're just doing, even if they don't even realize it, somebody's manipulating them and making them do what they want them to do. But, I've been thinking about this. When do you think we're going to reach a point to where the politicians that we see on TV, how do we know that they even exist? How do we know that they're not artificial intelligence driven, CGI generated, politicians that we see on TV? Because what are the chances of you actually running into a politician that you see on television? You know what I mean? Like seeing them in the flesh and actually coming across them. Most of the time, most people just know politicians as what they see on TV, talking head on television, right? So, you just got to wonder when we're going to reach a point to where we may not even have physical rulers anymore.
But no, big time. And I've said all along, the end game will end up with some kind of AI leader over the world. So absolutely, if an algorithm's going to be governing, governance by algorithm,
it'll be the people controlling the technology, right? That are the rulers, but you're not seeing them represented on the television. They're projecting an entirely different reality.
Yeah, it'll be like Henry Kissinger sitting there in his boxer shorts, pigging out on popcorn, but it'll be like a bronzed Adonis avatar that's doing all of his bidding at the virtual government. You know what I mean?
And plus, it's just like this too. If you have the kind of money that we're talking about, you have the kind of money that you could pay a guy to be you in pictures. Okay, everywhere since day one, they've been taking pictures of this guy, and he's had your name, but it's not you. But anytime there's something having to do with the public, this guy goes out there. He's like the total front man. See, but you never know what the guy actually looks like. He doesn't look anything like the guy you see on camera. The real Rothschild guy, you never saw a picture of this guy. The real people behind the scenes. What's 150 grand to somebody to pay him to ride around in limos and fly around the world and eat good food? I mean, who wouldn't want? I mean, wouldn't you take that job? Hey, maybe there's a job on Glassdoor.
Even on a much simpler level. I mean, you can see that dictators and leaders have had body doubles in the past that have filled in for them. You know what I mean? And,
all the time. And you think about when the cloning gets better, Scott. I mean, it's not going to be doubles. They'll just hatch them out of some test tube, man.
Yeah, exactly. And the body doubles live just as well as the leader, right? Because they have to play that role, and they have to basically be completely indistinguishable from that person. So, if Saddam had a body double, the body double would be living in a palace too, or living just like Saddam.
That kind of takes us. I can segue from there to one of the first stories we were going to go to tonight, right? Because somebody who I imagine definitely had a couple of body doubles on the go. El Chapo, right? El Chapo Guzman, the Sinaloa cartel, biggest gangster in the world, arguably. And he's been in the news lately. And just before I bring the story up, I have to really share my experience of this, because I watch Netflix a lot, and there's been a lot of kind of shows kind of centered on the drug war out of Mexico, the DEA, stuff like that. You've got Narcos. We've also got the shows that come out of Brazil, out of Mexico, and they've been dubbed with the English language, and they're fantastic. But the thing was, it obviously glorifies the life of somebody like El Chapo. And when it got to the end of the season, Scott, when he's getting caught and things, I mean, it's his story. You know what's coming. But I was still feeling sorry for the guy. And then when I'm hearing at the same time in the real world, the real El Chapo, he's getting dealt with by an American court and things. And I'm actually feeling myself sorry for a dude that arguably has killed probably in the region of 2,000 to 3,000 people. At least he's ordered these deaths. Very, very nasty character. And he's not out of the news yet, right? Because you'd think, well, he's going to a supermax prison in the US. There's no chance of a tunnel getting built this time, Scotty. However, he's doing something entirely different, because El Chapo is launching his own fashion range. What the f is going on, dude?
Hey, I guess this family is very business savvy. You know what I mean? They got a lot of money. They can make investments into whatever they want to.
A lot of money
to work on. Well, yeah, man. And the thing is that most of these drug cartels are family run anyway. So just because El Chapo is out of the picture, at least for now.
And Scott, not just
not
just family run, but you have to appreciate as well that they've been allowed to operate with a level of impunity. You know, they were handpicked by the Mexican government and the DEA to fulfill the role that they were doing. You know, they wanted their person controlling the drugs as opposed to just a Wild West kind of attitude that was going on, right?
Well, are they ever going to be out of the game, even when they're in prison?
I don't think so.
Look at all these gangsters that end up in prison, and they've got like the nice jail cell with the carpet and all that kind of, all the mafiosos that end up going to prison. They have to do it, but when they have all of that money, Jimmy, what does it really matter? I mean, they're going to get what they want one way or the other. And it's the reason why he's starting his own clothing line. It's like, you can do that because he probably had a network drop and a phone line dropped right to his prison cell, You're muted, Jimmy.
You're muted up, mate.
You're right about that. And but you're right about that. And one of the best scenes in any movie ever of all time was when homeboy got arrested for blow, and he was in jail, but the head of the family was also in jail at the same time, and they were all in there, and he goes down and he gets his package of these steaks and all this stuff. He brings it back, and the head of the family, the crime family, is sitting there, and he's slicing this garlic super thin, man, like paper thin. And he goes, "See, you slice it thin, and then it liquefies in the pan."
Yeah, it sounds a lot like the Sopranos.
Oh, yeah, well, unfortunately for them, Goodfellas came out first.
Oh, that's what it was, Goodfellas. Yeah. Because I remember that. I remember that scene exactly.
Yeah, and just the level of what they're living in, and the way they describe when you're a mobster, how you choose when you're going to go away. In other words, that one cat, the guy that was doing work for him, the rat, he was a fucking, he was a, he was having problems with his wife. And so they said, "Hey, you're having problems with your wife? Hey, time for you to go away." Boom. He goes to jail.
There's no way El Chapo's getting out of this Alcatraz of Colorado, though, is he? This place is like Supermax to the max.
He doesn't have to get out.
But he doesn't. And sometimes you wonder, with that secrecy that surrounds it, that isolation, if that doesn't work in his favor almost, because At that
Exactly.
point, maybe you can bribe because no one's going to get to you anyway, right? So
That's
you can
it.
have
That's
that
what I'm
kind of
saying.
thing.
He's totally protected. You know, he's not just in prison, but he's protected as the head of that family, and he'll live a long life in that pen, and he'll make decisions because, like we were saying earlier,
plus all of the
these
prison
are one of
guards are going to
these-
be driving Ferraris, Jimmy. You know, they're all going to be moving to big houses, all the prison guards in that prison.
well, these are the
Exactly.
cardboard characters that are put up there so that you think there's a drug cartel. See, there is a drug cartel. He is doing what he's doing. He did kill the people that he killed, but it's only because he was put in a position to do so in order for there to be a front operation to focus the war on drugs on. Meanwhile, the CIA is flying into Arkansas and whatever and landing onto oil platforms owned by George Bush. And
Yeah, you're
offloading
right. You're right because
cocaine.
we talk about. I mean, I've had Chip Tatum on the show. He talks about the Iran Contra stuff and flying the cocaine and things. Your cartels nowadays and the kind of stories you hear about El Chapo. That's exactly the same thing. It's just the modern day version of what we've known about happening in the past. And this is the way governments get shit done, Joe. They can launder their money, they can clean their money, they can push black money. This is where they get real business done. They need El Chapos. They need these big families. They need these fronts.
Yeah, these are the figures that go to prison, though. But the operators behind the scenes, the CIAs and all these operators, they're making money hand over fist because ultimately the whole game has always been around this. If you look back in time, like over, say, like the British Navy and the tea company and the opium, it's always been about the opium and the spreading of these. That's where the money is, and so like. You get this El Chapo up there. I mean, he's an interesting character. I mean, Sean Penn, in this script, Sean Penn apparently went down to interview him and then got with his girlfriend. And then just later he gets arrested. I mean, it's kind of coincidental, but I mean,
Not a
but
good
here you
move,
have
Joe. Not a good move getting with El Chapo's bird, Joe. No.
Joe, what do you think?
No, it's not. It's probably not a good idea. But I mean, we see this kind of thing too, where justice is not uniform. Equal justice under the law, as it says on our Supreme Court building, doesn't exist, right? It's a bunch of hooey. Look at Jesse effing Smollett, right?
Oh,
Now,
your friend, Joe. Your friend.
Let me tell you something.
I'm
If you're a lower income black American, you're going to prison for a long time for what he did. If you're anybody but him, because he's a gay black performer, that he gets the special treatment, that the Chicago DA is also African American and also sympathetic, and that she recused herself, but not officially. But she did, but she didn't. And that's what she says. Well, I didn't officially recuse myself. I just said I did. Oh, that's okay? So where's the outrage? There's a lot of outrage out there, but the 72-hour news cycle is going to bury that. So, I mean, and that's just.
Is he winning an award for something? Something going on?
Well, he was nominated. He was nominated. See, and I would be outraged. This is not something that is okay. This is something that shows exactly what they're fighting against. They say that there is no that preferential treatment, that's like white privilege. What's this? This is not white privilege. It's just privilege. That's all it is. And why? Because you have means. Even if anybody out there, if you have money, if you have a lot of money, you can do whatever you want. You can get away with anything because money talks. Yeah. Really think about it. You get the best attorneys. You get, if you're sick, you'll get access to the best medicine.
Get your kids into school over there.
Best schools.
Yeah. It's not racial privilege. It's class privilege.
It's right. It's class warfare. That's right.
Yes. And that has been going on for forever, right? I mean,
Right.
you have the haves and you have the have-nots, and
That's right.
those who have the money, those who have the power, are able to basically get away with stuff. They can pay people off, and they can pay for the best lawyers, and they can get out of situations that people of of a lower class just can't. They can't
That's
afford
right.
that.
Well, guys,
They can
well,
afford-
Joe, my friend Jennifer in the chat, and Jennifer, I keep saying it. We need to get you on here or get you on the Kev Baker show. I don't care where, as long as we get you on somewhere. This is another reason they are demonizing Venezuela. Venezuela kicked the DEA and the CIA out years ago, and they don't take kindly to drug smuggling. There you go. There's another reason why Venezuela's on the list to go.
And there's a reason. There's a reason for that. Anytime you see pushback against the Western power, the Western syndicate, that's the kind of things that you get. Same with Gaddafi. Gaddafi says, "Oh, well, we don't want your Western money. We don't want to be in perpetual servitude to you assholes. We want to go ahead and become free ourselves." And by the way, being on the continent of Africa, we sit on some of the biggest deposits, the biggest riches on the face of the earth. And by God, we're going to use it to enrich ourselves. F you and your frickin' banksters. And what ended up happening? He died, and Libya was knocked back into the third world, when a lot of people don't understand. Libya was not third world when Gaddafi was in charge. It was not. Now it is. And we have to ask ourselves, and you have to remember this too, that we are all equally guilty for those that you and everybody else that chooses to vote goes and, you put your name on the line. This is my guy. Whether or not you think, oh, well, it's crappy, it's a shit sandwich, either way you cut it. Well, then don't put your name down on the dotted line saying that that's your guy.
It
Because
just encourages them, Joe. It just encourages them.
You own it.
Yeah.
Well, you own it, right? And what's the biggest problem with society? Not anywhere, everywhere, all over the world. It's personal responsibility. That's what the problem is. People don't have a uniform desire to be personally responsible across the board. Really, if you boil it down and you want equality, everybody's got to pull their weight. The problem is not everybody pulls their weight, and that's a big problem. If they don't pull their weight, and that doesn't mean like everybody's going to be a doctor, but what you do the best you can do, and you be good vanguards of whatever it is, that your neighborhood, the environment, you do what's right. You have good values and good virtues. If you do these things, everything falls into line. But if everybody doesn't do it, you're not gonna have equality. But that's what everybody wants. They want to be up there with these people in their ivory towers, or not struggle and not have that personal responsibility as well. And I'm not saying that there aren't instances where there's injustices. Of course there is. These assholes up in those ivory towers are the cause of a lot of the bullshit, 99% of the bullshit we suffer with. But we have to be personally responsible. And the best way to do it is hold those assholes accountable. And I don't see enough pushback. I see a whole lot of apathy. And the only way that we fix things, the only way we fix things, Jimmy, is to do the things we need to do. And they're not comfortable, and they're not easy, and they require enormous sacrifice. And chances are it's going to result in personal tragedy on a mass scale. But hopefully the end result is
you scroungy little fuck.
Exactly. You get what you get some sort of justice. But I got to tell you, though, history shows that when this happens and blood is spilled or revolutions happen, that the changes are short-lived and humanity goes back to that same place. It's circular, We always end up going back to the same place we've been in. It's crazy.
Damn, that was like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That was killer, Joe.
Yeah.
Here's this thing, man. I want to point this out. Look, the Barack Obama administration didn't go away. They just went out of the reach and out of the confines of their ability to do business when they're under the president of the United States. So, Rahm Emanuel, you guys brought this up on the Nano Girl show. This is a really great connection. There's a Rahm Emanuel connection to Chicago. Ari Emanuel manages Jesse, whatever his nuts is. This guy is now up for an NAACP award. Now, what I want to ask you is, why would you be up for an NAACP? What did he do that's good for black people in general? He perpetrated a hoax. He tried to put racism where there wasn't any. He's put in a crisis actor situation. He's an actor. He's put in a crisis actor situation. He's under contract. Ari owns his ass. Okay? Ari owns his ass and his career. And you better go up there, Jesse, or whatever his nuts is, and do what I tell you. Okay? Don't worry about it, because it's going to look real. No one's going to question it, Jesse, whatever your nuts is. Okay? All of a sudden, somebody questioned it, and the whole thing fell apart, and Jesse ended his ass up in jail. And he said, you better get me out of here right now, or I'm going to start talking. You guys said everything was cool. Nobody was going to get you wiser. Everybody's going to fall right in line, just like the sheeps, Joe. Yeah. But they didn't. This time, people started looking at it and went, wait a minute. And then this guy writes a check to these guys.
You know what got me? You know what got me, Jimmy, about the whole thing? This is why I call bullshit on it. It had nothing to do with that or anything else. It had to do with like minus 60 that night. No one's going waiting in under the, hey, let's just wait to go attack a random black guy, or that guy, yeah, we've seen him on the TV, so we're gonna do that. We're just gonna go wait in an alley with a noose for somebody to come in when it's minus 60 out. That's bullshit.
Because it happens all the time, Joe.
Yeah.
Let's just perpetuate a hate crime in the middle of the polar vortex because we have nothing else to do other than standing for hours waiting for a Jussie Smollett to go get a sub sandwich at 2 a.m. I mean, come on, it's so ridiculous.
I'd never even heard of this guy until this had happened. Seriously, I'd never even heard of him.
Exactly.
I didn't know who he was.
No.
Exactly. And that's what they told him too. They said, look, man, you do this. Look, after this happens and everybody, you're the racist guy, you're the hero. Your name's plastered all over the place. You're going to get so much more money to do stuff. When you do a commercial now for Nike, you're going to get a couple million. Just do what we tell you. Don't worry about a thing. Everything's under control. And then he got in trouble. And now they're making him look like fools. And this guy, I mean, this is the epitome of what we talk about a lot on alternative media. There's a lot of people that talk about this exact same thing. And this time they got caught and they got busted right in front of everybody.
Yes.
It was everything we say about these events being fake.
And they'll just roll on to the next fake one, though. It's like the Russian collusion. It's like these things don't happen. When they get caught out, it doesn't matter. You just roll on to the next kind of charade.
Guys got episodes just like they do for a weekly TV series. You know, they used to have a few guys. Now they got a whole bunch of people, and that's why we get bombarded with all these stories, these seductive stories.
What was Joe Joseph sitting nodding his head at? He looks like he's got something planned in the background. Look at him.
Seductive stories.
Yeah, you had Joe at seductive. See,
I know. Well, some of these are drippingly seductive.
Well, Jimmy, talking of drippingly seductive, how is your attempts to garnish and corral a cougar club coming along?
Well, it's coming along good. You know, I came to this realization that, I came to this realization, not just cougars for as far as a female aspect, but just in general. Like when individuals get over a certain age,
Oh,
I
you
came to
mean
this
like
realization.
you've been like you're diversifying? You're going all like politically correct with it. You're not just like
You like
limiting it to
bariatric?
cougars.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, I was about to get to the good part.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so what I'm thinking is, like when you're younger, you're like 17, 18 years old, the world's your oyster, but you really haven't lived yet.
But you haven't earned your cougar stripes.
Right. But later on in life, when you're like, say, 45 and over, I mean, that should be the time when you're living it up, right? I mean, at this point, you got 30 years left?
That's when you've got mastery of the matrix, dude. You should be manipulating things around you by that stage,
Well,
man.
that's what I'm saying. Suppose you put a bunch of people, happy single people on a cruise ship.
Is this
Kinda
a
like
really
the-
long way of saying that you want 17 and 18-year-olds in your cougar club?
No.
No?
I got nothing to talk about with 17. Unfortunately, sex can last all night, but most times it doesn't. And then you got to sit there and talk to somebody. So, I appreciate the older ladies. I mean, I'm not, if I was going to be, if I was looking to be with somebody personally, I'd be looking at somebody at my own age that could, understand what the fuck I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Brilliant, Jimmy. Brilliant.
I'm just saying.
No jihad for Jimmy. He doesn't want 72 virgins. He just wants somebody he can converse with on the other side.
Somebody
But
who's 72. That's what he wants.
72 cougars.
Well, listen to this. It's not just on the female side though. Also, like guys, what I'm saying is it should be like the hippie scene of the 70s. It should be like when you get over a certain age, it should be like free love and partying. Like, why not? Okay. I partied when I was younger, but I quit partying and,
You could
you
could become a seductive character that goes on different shows in the alternative media and like bill yourself as Dr. Love. Something like that, dude.
Unfortunately, I do know a lot about love, and only because, just like I'm a good troubleshooter when it comes to systems, it's because I've experienced such horrible problems that had to be solved.
You're trying not to laugh.
Hey, I don't know.
Oh,
what can I say? I mean, I'm not going to tell any of those stories here and now, but I mean, we could do that sometime.
Oh, that's definitely one for the future. We'll get into Jimmy's love stories. My word.
You can even take calls on that one.
I'll need to put like an 18 plus kind of thing on that show for sure.
Definitely.
But something I am looking into is getting a phone number on Skype so people can actually phone into our little get-togethers here. That'd be really cool.
Great.
Yeah, that's going to be something to look for.
Definitely take it to the next level then, eh?
Oh,
What I was
who knows
saying
what
is,
we'll get, man.
Joe.
Who knows? But, hang on, Jimmy, hang on. This is something we discussed briefly last night. It's very apt to where we are today. But, you talk about letting people phone into your show. Is that really a risk we're willing to take? Think of the super chat scenario we discussed yesterday where we've had people going in and spamming anti-Semitic comments and now it's led to the potential where they'll take that away.
You'd have to have a way to screen it. But even then, I mean, it's easy to get by a call screener, so it's, I don't know. You're right. The risk is there for sure.
No, you're right.
And there you go with the personal responsibility again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be very irresponsible for somebody to go ahead and take that away from you, which you've worked so hard for, but it happens all the time.
Yep.
And for what? So it's tough. Why? Because we don't agree. Oh,
here's the next thing I want us to get into. This is quite important. Tech Titan takedown. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube execs face jail and multi-billion-pound fines over terror videos. Australia could become the first country in the world to introduce prison terms if firms fail to speedily remove terror videos. We knew a conversation was going to be started in kind of a light of recent events in New Zealand, but I didn't realize now we're talking about jail sentences, for actual tech companies, Scott.
Yeah, this is a little ridiculous. Well, actually, it's very ridiculous. It's how do you enforce something like that, right? It kind of goes back to Article 13 in a way, right? Like it becomes a nightmare for the companies to enforce this because it's just
The only efficient way to realistically enforce it is to put such a harsh upload filter in place that you just don't let people upload anymore, or there's something in place to block it before it goes live. And, I think the live streaming that we're used to, or we're getting used to on here, Scott, it's going to be changing very, very soon.
I think so. And I think this also has something to do with the Zuckerberg manifesto we were talking about, how he's going to be changing the platform of Facebook and moving it more towards a messenger-based system where it's just encrypted conversation between you and somebody else, as opposed to an open platform for the exchange of ideas, right? So we were talking about the disappearance of the news feed that it looks like probably will be occurring sometime down the road. So if they implement something like that, then that would definitely remove that whole problem of terror videos or whatever showing up in people's news feeds, because the news feed is gone, right? So there's not a public forum for people to post these videos anymore. And I think that's probably going to be the way that Facebook is going to solve this problem, as opposed to trying to come up with some unbelievably complex algorithm system to try and deal with any of this.
Yeah.
They're just going to remove the news feed completely and just be done with it.
Yep. And Joe, this is us getting closer to what you would call Internet 2.0 or something like that. I changed internet anyway, but the whole live streaming thing, I mean, look what we can do here. We've been playing about for live streams for a few months at best. And you can basically, get something rustled up together that it looks like it's coming from a TV studio. And there's no way they're going to like that, are they? If the alternative media have a tool at their hands where we can put on glossier presentations with the same kind of snappy graphics that the mainstream have been using to bamboozle people as well.
You see examples of it. You already see examples of it with some alternative media YouTube channels. Their production value is just as good as CNN or anything else. I mean, look at, was it Gary Frenchie, Next News Network, right? He's got a very nice presentation. And
what's wrong with that? But see, here's the thing is that he's going to have to, and what all these people are going to have to end up doing is going off platform to their own and doing it themselves. They're going to have to, and
that's the problem, because but that's the problem, Joe, because
it's money.
Then and not only that, when you try to go to your own platform, it just doesn't work, because that's not where the people are. It's so hard to get people to come to your platform. It's much easier for people
to explodes.
Because
now you've got PR, you've got to get it out. You got to get
not only that,
to
Joe.
Your site.
Not only that, Joe. If you're a platform then that wants to take on the likes of YouTube or Facebook, you're going to have to pay the link tax, Article 11. You're going to have to be the one that worries about the uploads going onto your site. You're the one that's going to then have to employ and deploy all these harsh upload filters. And guess who stands to make a fortune from these upload filters, guys? Guess who? Google. Because they've got a content matching system right now that they've spent $100 million on, that 9,000 broadcasters and studios already use. So this is the kind of company that's set to make a fortune from Article 13, right? Because websites are going to need these filters. They're going to need to know what's going on to their sites. So on
even
one hand,
when they lose, they win.
You've got YouTube, who have been good. They've been very kind of proactive in speaking out about Article 13, etc. But in the other part of Google HQ, they're sitting rubbing their hands together because they're looking at a whole heap of business coming their way for upload filters.
Absolutely. No, there's no doubt, man, that, they profit from both sides. It's almost like the banksters who profit from both sides of warfare. They've got both angles covered, and they do. That whole jail thing with Australia, that's a bunch of rubbish. You really can't hold somebody accountable that's 10 levels, above and removed from that. I
don't see them ever being able to enforce something like that. I mean, it's completely, on its face, it's but
I like Trump's idea though. I like Trump's idea of just basically saying, look, these platforms the modern day public square and should be treated as such. And if you don't, then you will not be able to contract with the federal government. It's that simple. If all governments did that and just let it be, whatever goes on these sites, you're going to have to go after the person themselves, not Google, not anybody else. If you want to sue somebody, sue them for saying it. Don't sue the platform. The platform is just the platform, no different than the sidewalk or anywhere else that you'd protest outside in public. It's the same thing. It's the public square. So if that's the public square, then treat it as such. But if that's the case, then constitutional rights apply, and they should be treated that way.
Exactly. I totally agree, and I think he should handle it like he's handling it with the universities, right? Like if they don't uphold free speech and allow free speech on college campuses, then they don't get government research funding. Simple as that. Yeah, and they should do the same thing with the tech companies where, yeah, like you said, if they don't uphold free speech and allow free speech to, allow people to express their free speech on their platform, then they don't get any government contracts. And, I guess people will argue, well, they'll still make money hand over fist, even without government contracts. But you know what? These people want any money that they can get a hold of, and the threat of having government contracts pulled from you, I think would raise a lot of eyebrows and get them to rethink a few things, at least, because that's a pretty hefty chunk of cash, that you could be receiving potentially. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jimmy. What you got? Yes. Much muted.
You're muted, Mr. Jimmy.
Barizzle this time.
Nothing heard from Jimmy. Yes, see?
The win.
Gone.
You
Too busy in that chat room and changing hats and who knows what else he's up to.
No, can't hear you, buddy. Yeah, still can't hear you.
David Bell says you would have to become a news channel. Just rewrite previous articles or give your opinion. You own that yourself. Absolutely. And that's fine. Where's Jimmy away to now? Now he's messed up all the cameras and everything.
Everything up.
The cameras will come back to normal in just a moment. Hopefully. There's always one. There's always one. Will we get through an entire week where we can just, Scott, you've always been good on the camera, Scott. It's either Joe or Jimmy. I get annoyed at Q, but really I should get annoyed at Jai. Joe and Jimmy,
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
Who else is annoyed?
Joe and on.
No, Jeff Bezos.
Why, what's he done? What's he?
What?
Dude,
remember that scandal where his information
hang
put
on.
out there?
Is he still even Jeff Bezos? Has somebody dipped him in a tank and he came out like Tony Stark? He looks like he's had it.
Personally, why would you even give a crap when you have that? See, there's one of the halves, right? And he's pissed that, he wasn't, his information got out. Well, comes to find out, they figured out who it was that obtained his information and threw it out there. You'll never guess who it was. Who do you think it was?
Go on, Scott.
4chan?
No, even better. What's that prince that killed off Khashoggi?
I don't know, but we're waiting. There we go. Hang on. We might be. Yeah, the cameras are fixed. There we go. Bloody
there you go. Yeah,
hell.
that Saudi.
Can't get the staff.
The Saudi prince. Yeah. The Saudi Arabian government. Yeah, they did it.
That's
now,
interesting.
I know. There's a lot of interesting things here. And it just makes you wonder, what's the motivation? Who did Bezos piss off over there that caused his dirty laundry to get leaked all over the place?
It's a good point, man.
It's very interesting.
He's obviously not playing ball on something.
Yeah. yeah, something's not right.
Yeah.
He pissed off the wrong person. But for the Saudis to get in on it, that's kind of weird. So, and this is what it says. Our investigators and several experts concluded with high confidence that the Saudis had access to Bezos's phone and gained private information. So they basically hacked his phone. It's Mohammed bin Salman, MBS.
You don't want to mess with that crew. You don't want to mess with that mob.
Nah, they're brutal.
Yeah. There's some regimes that, no messing.
Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. And here's again, when you have means, MBS and the House of Saud, they have limitless resources.
Yeah, man.
So and same thing with Bezos, right? Limitless resources, basically. So what the hell's going on? Is this just one of those things where it's my dick is bigger than yours?
Is it a billionaire pissing match, Joe?
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope so for Bezos' sake.
Man, because he could end up wearing a new pair of shoes or sandals.
Oh man.
So
he'll end up in a drift competition one Sunday down Riyadh way,
Yeah, drift competition. That's funny.
Definitely. What else? What crazy shit we got going on in the world, guys? We need some crazy shit. Because there is some crazy shit going on in the world.
Okay, let's see here.
Well, we've got Mum's attempt to make a giraffe Easter bonnet for son's results in a penis hat. Is that the kind of crazy we're talking about, Joe?
Before we get there, listen to this.
Really?
This is the Express, and it's an article that I've wanted to get into for a couple of days now.
Have you been really pondering this one? Did you take it to bed with you and stew over it and analyze it?
Not really. No, but it's interesting because we often talk about how narratives are made and pushed out there, and how oftentimes people have to back into these things, because if you were to do any sort of true scientific study or research, it doesn't prove, it actually disproves what the heck they're trying to prove. So the solution is you simply have to back into it in order to prove your point. And there were some pretty shocking things that were said that I find very interesting. I want to throw this out there. Flat Earth conspiracists set up argument-ending experiment, and what happens is shocking. And this is on their documentary on Netflix, Behind the Curve. It says one group decided to perform an experiment that would put an end to all conspiracy theories. So Jaron Campanella, who led the investigation, decided the best way to prove the Earth was flat would be using a laser. So the team placed 3 panels at equal distances along a river and fired the laser to see whether it hit the same spot. There was a problem. Bob Nodell, who was tasked with watching the middle panel, revealed how the laser had expanded in just a short distance to where he was standing. He said, "We can see it, but it's kind of huge. We need to narrow the beam. It's too big for us, and we'll be way too big for them." At the next panel, "The beam is taking up the whole panel," he said. Mr. Jaron and his peers then proceeded to play around with the technology, but alas, no luck. Then, clearly frustrated by the lack of success, the flat earthers shockingly abandoned Mr. Campanella. Now, Mrs. Campanella revealed to the camera, "People are leaving. They're all leaving." She said, "I think we should leave too. It takes 2 hours to get home. You need to figure out how to use the laser." Well, lasers are actually pretty easy to use. You don't have to, there's not much focusing. A laser is a laser because it's extremely focused light. So Mr. Campanella then admitted that he needed to go back to the drawing board with his idea because it didn't work. He said, "Man, I don't know what to do. We'll have to come back. We just got to figure out the way to make it work." We just got to figure out a way to make it work. The experiment comes after Mr. Nodell revealed during the same show how another member of the society had spent almost $20,000 trying to prove his theory, He said if the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. I'll go with that. So if a gyroscope is mounted anywhere on the Earth, it's going to drift. So in today's navigation system, they use what's called a ring laser gyroscope because it's extremely precise. And he says if we could get a hold of one of these, why, we could prove once and for all that there's no rotation. So somebody actually purchased one for 20 grand. And despite what would appear to be a huge setback during the test, Mr. Nodell is still hopeful. Listen, this is the problem. What we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we were picking up a drift of 15 degrees per hour. Oops. He says, obviously, we were taken aback by it. It's kind of a problem, right? And listen to this. Here it is. We are obviously not willing to accept this. Sound like the Mueller investigation? So the next thing we're going to do is try to encase the entire apparatus in bismuth. What? I mean,
they'll in order to make it fit their thing, they're willing to completely like ruin the experiment and force it to come out with the sort of readings that they want in order to make it fit their thing, instead of just on its face, you turned it on, or you looked at the gyroscope and it registered what it did. No, we can't accept that. So let's screw with the gyroscope. Let's encase it in bismuth. Let's mess it up, and then until we can get it to put a reading out that's acceptable.
We want, that fits our what we want it to do. And it's funny because when you look at gravity, Kevin, I know you don't like gravity, but gravity.
It's not that I don't like it. It's like Scott says. It's just a name given to a process.
Well, I know, right?
What I mean?
So you take this process, right? You take something and you drop it to the floor. It drops, it falls to the floor, right?
Fucking anti-gravitous that I'm painted as on the internet.
Well, it's a very simple experiment that anybody can do, right?
People
you take
probably
an object,
they probably think I sit here and throw darts at pictures of Newton and things like that. I try and literally knock his head off with a fucking apple. I've got nothing against Newton and his gravity, dude.
Of course you don't. I know you don't. It's just you like to call it something different. They like to call it something different.
Yes,
but we're all talking about the same
we heard
force,
you, Jimmy.
the same action.
Yes, we heard you, Jimmy. We heard you. We will come to you in a second, but you are back with us.
So you can drop something to the floor, and what that does, it disproves flat Earth. Why? Because if the Earth was a disk, we would constantly be pulled to the center. But because it's a sphere, a constant shape, no matter where you stand, you have the same amount of mass under you at all times. And this means gravity will pull anything on the surface of the sphere straight down towards the center. That's how it works. So I don't know what to tell you, but backing into these things is not the way you gain credibility. Straight up.
That there, ladies and gentlemen, was Jonai, science guy.
I'm telling you, man, I just can't take it. I cannot take the hypocrisy, if you will. And let me be clear. These asshats have enriched themselves greatly with this deception and this buffoonery.
Buffoonery.
Well, it turned into this whole a bunch of these guys got into flat Earth. In other words, they also were believers. And these guys were all
Did you say believers or believers?
Yeah, they're believers.
Yeah.
Probably both.
Right. But there was these multi-level marketing people that were flat earthers, and they put this whole program together where these people would go in and they'd call shows and ask these pointed questions so that they could say, well, have you ever, and then they would come in with their pitch. Have you ever heard about the flat earth or whatever? I don't take a side one way or the other. To me, it's all bullshit. Okay. It's just some propaganda or some propagation of somebody's information that gained popularity. To me, it makes no difference, man. I got to pay my rent at the end of the month. Don't you, Joe? Well, I mean, honestly,
I'm a big proponent of hemorrhoid-shaped Earth, as is Lee Veltman. He was in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if Lee's still there, but we strongly believe, and we challenge anyone out there to take a rocket up and have a look for themselves, because I'm willing to be corrected. Probably not with an ice wall scenario, but at least we'll know one way or another. I want to inspect the hemorrhoid-shaped Earth, Joe.
well, so they had these seductive characters that had good voices. They were sort of sexy sounding.
I'm going to give you
and
seductive hemorrhoids.
They were pitching people just like you would pitch people in any other thing. And listen, there's a lot of the facts that are put forward in that movement are easily verifiable by yourself if you want to look. And it's just like Alex Jones saying, go do the research yourself. Because what happens is you go do and go check it, man. Go check it. And you go check what they tell you. And look, it looks like the Earth's flat. I mean, to you, common sense would say, based on what you're seeing here, that the Earth is flat.
Who
Just
cares?
like
Who cares?
when Alex Jones would do a story and say, look, man, go research it. But that doesn't mean 100% of what he says is true. Just like it doesn't mean that the Earth is flat. I heard a guy calling a show, a radio show. Joe, I'm pointing this at you, Joe, because I know you're going to get a kick out of it. This guy called this radio show and said that he, in all his life, he had been an atheist, Joe. But because the Bible had tales of a flat earth in it, now he believed everything in the Bible from cover to cover.
Can I be honest with you? I've heard that, and I've heard that it's brought many people and to draw that conclusion. I'll use an example in the Bible where you can infer something's one shape, but it could be another. And again, this is something that when the Bible was written, and remember, the Bible wasn't written at the same time. It wasn't put together the way it was. That all of these individual books were written at different times in human history, in different places, and that they were put together by the Council of Nicaea to bring some, make it a little more streamlined. So everybody had it in this one collection. But there's so many things, so many books that aren't included in it that are very important to understand. And also understand, too, that some of the knowledge that was transferred to humans weren't necessarily interpreted the right way, a la, when we look at dimensions, we can look at them like pages in a book, flat, but does that necessarily mean they are? I don't know. The shape in all things really doesn't bother me, but I'll give you an example. New Jerusalem. So when New Jerusalem comes down, right, after the earth is destroyed, and for 1,000 years, the humans are in heaven, and then New Jerusalem comes down, and everybody lives on the earth in happiness, golden age of humanity. It gives the dimensions of New Jerusalem. And you can take it, and most people interpreted it as, like a square or a building. But there's another way you can interpret it, and that's as a pyramid. You can take those same dimensions and apply it as a pyramid, and it would be totally and completely justified in doing so. You can have those same descriptors, and it could be two totally different shapes, but have the exact same dimensions. It's possible. So, yes, could you say, based on what the Bible says, that there's relevance to that, to flat earth? Absolutely, you could. But that's not the only way you can interpret these things. That's the problem. And we, as humans, have like a molecule's amount of understanding in the grand scheme of things. So I think you're absolutely right, Jimmy. It doesn't matter what the hell shape it is or anything else. I don't care. But what I do care is when people are taken advantage of for profit, when you can clearly see that the science is not It's not valid. People are being rooked, and I don't like that.
This is what we were talking about last night. Now, listen, I got a lot of friends that, are flat earthers. Okay. I'm not a shapist. Okay. When I get in a conversation with one of my friends that's a flat earther,
A shapist?
He's a globalist.
Yeah, I'm not a shapist.
Jimmy the globalist.
But no, seriously, I mean, so just like I got friends that are Christians, but when I get in conversations with them, it ain't about the earth being flat, and it's not about them being Christians. We're just having a conversation.
Right.
But the point I want to make is a lot of very, very intelligent people, a lot of very talented and creative people are on that side of the fence. Okay.
Well, that have hitched their wagons to something that has no bearing on anything, really, if you think about it. At least in my
hang on, because this ties into what we were saying last night about Q, bro.
Okay.
Because listen, what Flat Earth has done is it's taken all of those smart, creative people willing to spend 20 grand on a piece of equipment to find something out and took them off the market. Just like there's nothing wrong with you researching stuff and doing experiments to prove the earth is round or flat to yourself. That means you have to learn about the equipment. That means you have to learn about all these things that makes you a better person walking around the world. There's nothing wrong with that.
Greeks were known as Romeus before being known as Greek. The gods, all of it hit the key. Discuss.
So, Roman Empire never existed. It was the Greeks, or Greek Empire. The Greeks were known as Romeus before being known as Greek. The gods, all of it is the key. Discuss. That comes from Bison. Bison, thank you very much for bringing that up. So, Joe,
you see what I'm saying, Joe? There's a whole segment of people there that are taken off the market. They're not researching anything to make the world better. They're not using their power of creativity to make the world a better place. They're stuck over here trying to convince me that the earth is flat. Those people that are doing Q research, the people doing the Q research, they're finding out about things they didn't know before. They're becoming better people. There's nothing wrong with them researching it, but it takes them off the market. Now they're segmenting this population and taking them off the market, the smart, creative people that have solutions to the problems that are going on in the world today.
We'll leave flat earthers and Q pushers to talk about that. And I want to come quickly then to Joe, because Roman Empire never existed. What do you make of that one, man?
Well, let's say this. They certainly did exist, but their origins, perhaps. Look at their gods. They're similar gods. Right? Different languages, different names. They were still the Titans of old. They're the fallen angels. We all talk about these same entities, but we put different names to them because when the languages were scattered and people were scattered, that's what happened. We all talk about the same things. We just call them different names. And the stories might change slightly because everything that's passed down from generation to generation, the story can get slightly skewed unless you've got some really good protectors of that history. You know who are some of the best protectors of their history? Jews, Hebrews. It's unbelievable that's why they're all accountants.
Because they know all that Kabbalah magic,
when it comes to record keeping.
They know all that Kabbalah magic to work in.
They do.
Yeah. That's what it is,
but more importantly, the Torah from the day it was written by Moses, it was penned by Moses to present day, hasn't changed at all. It's the same thing from when Moses first put it together. So, I mean, and you can look at the Bible. How many variations and flavors do you have of that? How many interpretations? It's all whatever oh, this is the King James version. Well, this is the New International version. Well, this is the EIEIO version.
It's like if somebody called it the Queen Elizabeth version because she got to rewrite it today, would anyone believe a word in it? No, they wouldn't.
Yeah, but the Torah is unbelievably the same Torah that was when it was penned by Moses. It's uncanny. So when you look at that, over time, these stories get skewed, but we're still talking about the same thing. So I agree. It could very well be that they were the same people, just called something different, in a different area of the world, that then spawned a new empire.
Exactly.
And
As
the
one
rest is
thing,
history.
as one thing falls, some of that knowledge remains. It goes over into the next thing, and then it builds up again with called something new.
What happens when we fall?
Exactly. There'll be
What
nothing
happens
left
when the American empire falls?
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. We talk about the civilizations that we can trace, like Göbekli Tepe. We can find those monuments and things. But what if there's been like pockets of time where there's been civilizations rose up and disappeared again, and they had technology like us, and they had housing like us and buildings like us? Because let's face it, this kind of architecture, there won't be much left to kind of tell we were here thousands of years from now. So how quickly,
especially with a catastrophic event like a flood.
Yeah, so how many civilizations have come and gone that we haven't even found any remnants of, Joe?
Right.
Well, then that's an interesting question, because then you got to wonder, like, if they reached a point like we are, right, and look at all of the materials we have created that are not biodegradable, plastics and things like that. So you would think that if there was a civilization that achieved the same level of technological advancement, that at some point we would hit a layer in the ground where we would see massive amounts of materials that are not biodegradable, plastics and polymers and things like that are built to last forever and never degrade. So that's kind of one of the interesting questions and kind of the mysteries of, when we're talking about this whole thing of past civilizations, and especially past civilizations that had high technology. Why haven't we found that
spaceship?
I would say,
the spaceship sitting underneath Giza Plateau, just ready for us to take for a spin, Scott?
Well, not only that, I mean, why haven't we found any other civilizations equivalent to, say, plastic bottles or trash bags or things like that? Unless they operated on a level of technology that's foreign to us, and maybe they didn't make plastic polymers or something like that. But it's weird. It makes you wonder why we haven't found any of the kind of trademark aspects of a modern civilization like us yet. Maybe it's just so we haven't hit those layers yet. Maybe they've just continually built a top, over and over and over and over, and we've only just kind of scratched the surface, and we haven't even hit the layer that these ancient civilizations existed on.
That's the way it feels at Oak Island, as they keep scraping things back. There's multiple layers of shit going on there, like way different episodes over time, all layered upon one another.
Like, can you imagine if they got to a certain level and they hit like the I-beam from a skyscraper?
A D-wave?
I mean, yeah, or some kind of a, something that looks very, very similar to like what we have now. And then all of a sudden, that's a game changer, right? And you got to wonder, have they found things like that? That goes back into the whole hunt for ancient artifacts, right? And the Germans did it. The Nazis, they had an entire group of people that went out and were trying to look for ancient artifacts, and for all we know, probably high technology that has been covered. And that's why they were going to Antarctica, and that's why they were going all around the world, looking for these ancient artifacts, because I'm sure if these ancient civilizations existed with high technology, which I believe they did, you're going to find traces of it somewhere. You have to find traces of it somewhere.
That's what I think the whole rush to the South Pole was about. That's why I think we've seen all those people going down there. Whether it was something that's emerging out of the ice now that things are melting a little bit, some kind of ancient technology, some alien technology, who knows? But it was something like that for me. So yeah, definitely there has to.
You also have to take into account just the total obliteration of a civilization to where there is nothing left. There was nothing left to cover up. You know what I mean? So any traces of it that may have been covered up or existed underground just wasn't even there. We're talking about maybe a catastrophic event on such a massive scale that like maybe everything on the surface of the planet was like vaporized or just blown into dust. You know what I mean? So there wouldn't even be any trash bags or plastic bottles or I-beams from a skyscraper left. It just gone, just completely gone. Who knows? And when we look at a lot of these ancient structures, especially the pyramid structures, you notice how they construct these out of the natural rock of the planet instead of like building it out of metal or steel like we currently do. We built skyscrapers out of metal and all of that stuff, but these pyramids were just built out of rock.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because we had Bernie Taylor on the show, and Bernie Taylor was talking about when you look at the Sphinx, actually think of that general shape mostly being actually shaped by water, and at one point it was underwater, and it was a natural formation that really they took advantage of, and they came and they kind of just actually worked on, like you say, the natural formation that was there, Scott, as opposed to building it from scratch. It was something that had already been eroded into the kind of bedrock.
Yeah, and think of this. I mean, just think of the longevity and how sturdy these structures are, that you can still go to the pyramid today. You know what I mean? And sure, it's been eroded over time, but I mean, it has held up. I mean, look at all of the stuff it has held up through, all of the weather and thousands and thousands of years. I mean, it's insane to think about the longevity of that construction. Do you think that any skyscraper today will be standing 5,000 years from now?
No way.
Think about that.
500? No.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
So think about how wild that is, that their construction was so solid, that it was so badass, that even, thousands and thousands of years into the future, it's still there.
Yeah.
And
it's truly a testament. Truly is. You take a look at the Great Pyramid. Stood the test of time, withstood the flood. There's a lot that went into that. It's a solid structure. If you've ever been to it or been in it or climbed up it,
it's still giving up its secrets, with that new chamber that they discovered with the Scan Pyramids team. We're still yet to find out what the hell's going on with that thing. So for me, definitely more machine than monument.
Yeah, no, it's, Kev, almost like chemtrails. It probably had many purposes, kind of like that, but maybe not as nefarious.
It's just that you see them all around the world,
Yeah.
That's what gets me.
You do, but that could have been, the technology of the day, and maybe it was a power transmission system. Ants just asked, how come there aren't more like them in the world? I would argue that there are more like them in the world, that most of them just haven't been unearthed in that way. Like, take a look at the Antarctic pyramid. Yep. They say that one's bigger than the one in Giza.
Yeah.
The one in China.
There's one in China as well, Joe.
Angie's question is, if they were using it to generate power in that way, you'd think you'd see more of them out there. My argument then is to this as well. The flood devastated regions, some much different than others. If you look at the Giza Plateau was not affected, say, like Antarctica was, where Antarctica was clearly tropical in nature and then shifted. And when it shifted, it went down to the North Pole or South Pole. Same with Atlantis, the Atlantean Empire. How come there's very little to no evidence of the Atlantean Empire? One that was supposedly so technologically advanced and so present in the world, and yet there's virtually nothing of it, And it's because the crust of the earth, the entire planet, was completely devastated. And again, you look at Randall Carlson's research simply with the Greenland ice sheet and the fact that, these ice core samples are showing these devastating, cataclysmic global events that took place that in an instant wipes out civilization and knocks humanity back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying of, why haven't we found any of the trademarks, the remnants of a highly advanced civilization like us, because like I said, you would think that they would be able to make things like plastic bottles or whatever in the, kind of the same realm. And we just haven't hit that layer in the dirt yet, or maybe that layer just doesn't even exist. Maybe it was just all vaporized. Because
we don't know. We don't know what and how it manifested itself. Case in point, they'll tell you that it happened over millions of years. A great example of that is the Grand Canyon. Oh, the Colorado River carved that out over millions of years. Yes. No, you're assholes. Actually, what happened is, and there's a great example of it, you go and look at Mount St. Helens. Look at the forest surrounding Mount St. Helens prior to the eruption, and then look at the land after the eruption. And that happened in a matter of hours. In a matter of hours, it totally transformed the entire landscape and added feet, hundreds of feet of new strata just simply from that eruption. And it devastated everything for hundreds of miles around. It totally changed it. The area around around Mount St. Helens now it's now finally growing stuff again, but it looked like the Grand Canyon, like a miniature version of it. Well, how did that happen? Because you had pyroclastic flows, you had mud flows. Water is extremely destructive, especially when it's flowing at a high rate and a high volume. It is, and it will carve into rock quicker than you know what. So, like Randall Carlson and a lot of other scientists and geologists are coming to the realization of, is that this didn't happen over millions of years, that these structures, these canyons, were carved out in the matter of hours or days. That's huge. That means that all of the science that we have, that we learn, is bunkum. That's not to say that we should be pissed. No. But we should at least evolve in our level of thinking and say, okay, well, if that's the case, then I'm not going to continue to peddle this rubbish, when there's better explanations to it. So yeah,
it goes back. It goes back to the same thing with, like, they won't accept the Mueller report, right? So when any information comes forward. Yes, when any information comes forward that contradicts what they've been trying to push, they just act like it doesn't exist, or they don't accept, So.
And by the way, it's okay to have differing opinions, to have differing theories, because nobody has all the answers. I know.
Yeah,
I don't even know if I'm right.
Of science. Yeah, isn't that the whole point of science, is to propose different ideas and test different theories and find out which one is the one that actually works, as opposed to shutting down someone else's theory because it doesn't jive with yours, or it's crazy how science has become so dogmatic. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Dogmatic is a great response, or a great description of it. It is. It's become less about science and it's become more dogma. And people are willing to defend. It's like, look at some of the wars that humanity has fought. And it's fought over dogmas. It's fought over things that we don't even have all the answers for, but because I feel I'm right, I'm going to kill you and your family and your village and your country. We're going to take it all over because you guys don't believe the same things that we do, because you're heretics. Look at the Spanish Inquisition, what happened there. What a bunch of bullshit that killed millions of people. For what? For what? It had nothing to do with being holy, or because those that believed in Muhammad and others didn't conform to Roman Catholicism and other crap. It was all power and control. It was all power and control. It had nothing to do with, this is the truth. And they wanted to exterminate their enemies. Well, what's the best way to do that? Well, you're all heretics. And boy, they used that. Heretic was the medieval fake news. That's what it was. It was. That's what we should be called, a media heretic. That's what you are. Blah, blah, blah. You don't say the same things that we do, and you're not reporting on the same shit that we do. Therefore, you're a heretic, and we should hang you by your gonads. Like, what?
Ancient fake news. I love it, Joe.
It is. That's what it is, dude. Heretic. That term, heretic, was used for anybody that didn't conform to the Pope and the Crusade and all that bullshit.
Jimmy's a heretic. Look at him.
Heretic, by God.
Look at him. He is by definition a heretic. You open up the dictionary today and Jimmy Jeans is there, man.
But that's what it is. It's the same thing. It's only called something different. So everybody now, like you and me and everybody else that's out here that says things counter to a narrative, what are we? We're
the modern day heretics.
Yeah, Litgore in the chat room. Salem witch trials. Crazy as shit. Absolutely. Same shit. Same playbook. Burning people at the stake. Why don't we go ahead and do that now? How about we disembowel them and light entrails on fire? Let's bring that shit back.
Well, Jimmy had a game show planned earlier on that would take care of this. We're going to call it like Drive-In, man. We're going to get a bunch of old vehicles. Yeah, and we're just going to let people like kill each other on the highways.
I say we just bring back Thunderdome.
Yeah, man. Do
Thunderdome.
it.
I think there needs to be. I mean, I think the time has come for there to be a game show that puts forward individuals that are willing to pay the ultimate price in trying to reach their goal. In other words,
there already is. It's called Big Brother and reality TV.
Now that's not. There's nobody paying the ultimate price there. What I'm saying is, there's got to be a potential that somebody's going to lose their life. Otherwise, it's just another show.
I got something. How about this? And I tell my kids this all the time, and oftentimes it doesn't amount to shit, but I'm going to say it anyway.
But we'll go with it anyway.
If it doesn't come from love or light, don't do it. It's really that simple. Use that as your litmus test. Is what I'm about to do, does it have anything to do with love or light? Where does it come from? Is it driven by hate? Is it driven by darkness? What is it? If it doesn't come from love or light, it's like in our marriage, in Angie's and I, in our marriage, we have an agreement. And it's very simple, and it keeps us honest. If it's something that I wouldn't say or do in front of her, then I wouldn't do it. Just don't do it. It's that simple. And if you do that, guess what? You don't have any problems. It's great. So all you got to do is say, hey, look, is what I'm about to do, is this going to make that person feel good about themselves or whatever? Or am I just doing it for my own personal gain? Or am I doing it for my own personal entertainment? Or for whatever reason, is it coming from that? If it doesn't come from love or light, don't do it. I don't know. Seems to be kind of
Joe
easy.
Joseph, ladies and gentlemen, New Age preacher. You can hire him for $5.
Right. I'm one of those multi-dimensional kind of guys.
Love and light.
I want to throw a bone. I want to throw a bone in that soup over there, Joe, that you're cooking. I smell what you're cooking over there. And I think, the golden rule is a simple way of testing whether or not, if you're moving in the positive direction that you think you are. And if you use the golden rule, Joe, as a litmus test, because research has been done by guys in white jackets with clipboards.
It's important,
that has
man.
super high and tight haircuts. And they're standing there with their glasses sort of in their lip in a sort of wistful look as they think about the information. It's been proven that what are we talking about again?
I have no idea, Jimmy.
You geriatric bitch. This is what happens. See, and I'm not even nearly as geriatric as you are, and I forget my shit too, so it's okay.
I mesmerized myself, and then you couple in the short-term memory loss, and
before you know it, you
Hey, well,
derail
we're making-
yourself.
hey,
By the
we're
way,
making
my
this
comment did
dimension-
not come from love and light, by the way. I just want you to understand. I do recognize that. It was only for my own entertainment and my own self-gratification that I said that. I apologize.
We're making this dimension great again, guys, like we did.
Oh, gee.
And listen, no, love and light is a good subject, man, because it is. It's an expressive, reciprocating situation. There's a lot of unrealistic expectations people have in their day-to-day relationships. They want people to meet certain criteria. This is a way that we can filter out what we want to take in and not take in, kind of thing.
Jimmy, we've definitely made the criteria because Fiona in the chat room, love this, man. Truly is the best show for being uplifting, brain tickling, cozy, tummy toning, just perfect. So glad you guys met each other to start with at the Kev Baker show. I think that's a pretty high praise for the little get together in the man cave that we have here on a weekend, boys.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
And so,
It says in
hey,
here, Megaphone
Craig-
Man says, unfortunately, there are many people whose standards of what is right and wrong are absolutely messed up. Upside down world, I call that. Craig says, so where does delivering nerds atomic wedgies fit into love and light philosophy? I'd say right up the crack of their arse.
Amen to that. It ain't much like
black
that,
hole.
mister.
Unless you're on the event horizon of a black hole and your gravity's strong enough to suck it all in.
Whoa, dude, that sounds like giving Michelle Obama an enema or something on the verge of an event horizon like that.
Only if ashless chaps are involved, I would say.
Joe's actually sitting naked from the waist down doing this, just so people
he?
are aware of
You have
that.
no idea.
Yeah.
I thought you looked like this guy I know, Richard Wood.
Okay, hang on, Jimmy, hang on. Somebody in the chat room's asking me about David Icke. Yes, David Icke is most certainly still coming on. We've had a change of date. It's no longer April the 8th. It's May the 28th. I've been in touch with Jamie, one of his children, who's putting all of this together. And yeah, May 28th, David Icke comes to the Kev Baker show. Oh, yes.
Nice.
So never fear.
Sweet.
And a big shout out to David's team for getting in touch with me so quickly once they realised there was going to be the new film about David's life coming out round about that time called Renegade. There's a new book coming out as well, I believe. So it's going to be a busy time for Mike. And yep, we've got him for the Kev Baker show.
Nice.
Excellent. You'll be snatching him during the Whirlwind press tour. I see.
Yes, and hopefully we'll impress him enough so he makes it one of his come-to shows whenever he's doing the rounds. That's the plan. Look at Joe sitting there smiling away thinking, that's the day I derail, Kev. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Never do that to you and your unicorn.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
He's looking wistful, though. I must admit, he's kind of got he's leaning on that fist, the fist of rage. He's got it calm, but he's leaning on it. I see some body language here, Joe.
I don't know, but going back to the chat room, we've got Megaphone Man. Your eyes lied to you. Your reality has been distorted by your vision or lack thereof. Do you see what I see? There you go.
You know what? Megaphone Man, I believe, is blind, so I cannot see what he sees.
None of us
No.
see what anyone else sees, even if we're both looking at the same object.
I know, right?
Our
So
realities are all different on that quantum scale. Yeah.
making this dimension tidy again.
Making this dimension sexy again with Miss Cortez as the world president.
Oh my God.
What?
Every
Oh my
one of
God.
these, you bring that up.
He's got it bad, man.
I do
I
have
know.
it bad. I do have it bad. It's those lovely, sexy eyes. Maybe it's that lovely voice she's got. I can't quite work it out.
Oh my God. Are you serious, dude?
Jesus.
Not Paul Begley serious, but yeah, I'm serious. Look
Man.
at him. Shocked into silence. Shocked into silence. Well, do you know what I've
Are you
got?
serious?
Well, no, forget, are you serious? Because get this.
You gotta be shitting me.
Yep, Gunny's even getting weighed in on the whole thing, man.
Hey, I got a pretty good show planned for tonight. Would you guys mind if I let everybody know about it?
No, you can't do that here. So moving on to the next. On you go, Jimmy.
Hey, so tonight back on the mothership over there at True Frequency Radio, Into the Microcosm is going to be on the air at 9 p.m. Pacific, and tonight we are doing the time warp in the first hour, and we're going back to the 70s. We're going to talk about what's been going on, what was going on, some of the groups. Going to talk about the American Indian movement and the takeover of Alcatraz Island in San Francisco.
Cool, man.
And Leo Zagami is going to be joining us in the last hour.
Joe loves Leo Zagami, dude. Joe loves him.
Joe, you want to come on with Leo tonight?
Oh, I can't tonight, buddy. Busy weekend ahead.
You know what? Sometime, just let me know when he's on. And if anytime you want to come on and talk to him, I didn't realize you loved him so much, Kev. I mean, you should have told me.
Yeah, Joe's got a right love affair going on there, man. It's like his favorite dude.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of favorite dudes, I got something for you. This is the sun. Now, your boy Zucky.
He's not my boy, dude. It's the same as like I'm not anti-gravity. I'm not pros up.
Out. He's calling for tighter regulations in the wake of the Christchurch. So now they're all saying, well, we're going to hold you responsible, right? Now he's saying that governments and watchdogs must play a more active role. And of course, you're never going to have it. You're never going to see them do that. It's going to be more along the lines of the policing through the private sector and also from the standpoint of self-censorship. And so that's what they'll do. They scare you into censoring your own content, and it's been extremely effective. But now, old Zucky boy believes these new regulations are needed in 4 areas across the internet. It says harmful content, election integrity, privacy, and data portability. Listen to this. He said this to the Washington Post and on his own Facebook page. He said this: every day we make decisions about what speech is harmful, what constitutes political advertising, and how to prevent sophisticated cyber attacks. But if we're starting from scratch, we wouldn't ask companies to make these judgments alone. I believe we need a more active role for governments and regulators. By updating these rules for the internet, we can preserve what's best about it: the freedom for people to express themselves and for entrepreneurs to build new things while also protecting society from broader harms. All right, guys, go.
Well, first of all, I want to highlight again, you're reading from the scum, as we call it here in the UK. So anything taken from the scum has to be taken with a pinch of salt. But yeah, Zuckerberg, he's kind of positioning himself as the king of the internet. He came out with this manifesto. And a lot of talk of manifestos in recent years, right? But yeah, Zuckerberg came out with his manifesto about making the internet a lot more private, a lot more end-to-end encryption, and making it less like that digital town square where everyone can see your business, and making it more comfortable, Joe. Moving into that digital boudoir where nobody's looking at what you're doing. But Facebook, this is how big they've become. Where basically they are the internet along with Google. You can throw YouTube into that. And I've said it a few times in recent months, forget the fact that these companies seem separate on the face of it. They're all one big, giant, happy club. They all work together. You see that when they ban people en masse, and they might have different logos. They might seem like they're different entities. They might not even have like rival business plans or models, but they're all in this together, Scott. They're that big tech monster.
Exactly. I call them the big tech oligopoly. And they control everything. And it's kind of like wrestling in a way. You think that they're competitors, but behind the scenes.
Well, Scott, put it this way, right? We had Charlie Robinson on recently, and he was pointing out that Facebook, they had been caught sharing data or giving data to Netflix, to Amazon, to a host of other companies. And in their defense, they said, well, basically, we're all the same business. We were just sharing things with our partners. So that shows you that they're sharing everything between each other. There's no rivalry there.
No, there's not. And what it is they've all kind of found their own niche to control on the internet, right? So Amazon controls the sort of a product consumer sort of area of the internet because everybody goes to Amazon to buy something. Let's be honest. I mean, that's just where you go. You know, it's not so much eBay anymore or anything like that. I mean, Amazon takes the bulk share of everything. So they have that side of the market. You know, Facebook has the social media sort of thing. And I would say, you know, Facebook and Twitter kind of have their own sort of ways of running social media so they can both operate independently of each other.
They don't overlap each other often, right, Scotty?
Yeah. They don't conflict because Twitter's platform is more of a quick one shot kind of you know, you have to kind of formulate your point very quick, you know, shortened.
I love it.
Yeah, it forces you to get straight to the point, basically.
You have to trigger people in 180 characters or less to trigger them, Scott.
Yeah, and then Facebook is more of the diary of the internet, right? So it's where people post their dirty laundry, or if they want to rant about something, they can post a manifesto on their Facebook, and it's kind of the more it covers that realm more. So, you know, you have these different companies that play their different roles, but when you put them all together, they do encompass the entire internet, if you think about it, you know. So
they have the dataopoly. You like that?
Yeah, and of course they work together, and of course they converse back and forth behind the scenes and sell data back and forth to each other and all of this stuff. Yeah, something needs to be done about them. I'm telling you.
Now, somebody said the clocks have just changed. And it's probably, you know, we've got another hour or so here in the UK until our clocks change. That'll be a bit weird. We'll jump forward, and that'll be everything. All order will be resumed in the universe.
Yes.
All my listeners.
Spring ahead, fall back.
Yeah, all my KBS listeners will be turning up an hour early for the next week or two, thinking we're still on at that earlier time. You know how it rolls this time of year, boys. You know.
Changing time frames in the quantum moment right here on the Kev Baker channel. You know, it's like cornflakes, right? When you go to the grocery store, there's like 1,000 different kinds of cereal up on them shelves. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. You know, some of it has stuff in it, you know, genetically modified this or that. But the bottom line is most of those cereals, or the bulk of them, are made by the same company. They just got different boxes on there to appeal to different segments of the population.
Damn, dude, I thought you'd got some sponsorship deal with a brand of cornflakes there. I thought you were going to launch into some kind of promo for us. That was sounding really cool, dude. Get your
I know, well,
flakes.
just think about it. It's like the title Corn Flakes. It's like corn flakes, right? It's just corn and flakes, but they've turned that into a product called corn flakes.
Corn just and like, flakes, just Kevin Bakes. We could make a song like that.
Well, you know, cornflakes was invented to prevent people from masturbating.
What?
Look that up.
Really? What? Now we're
Where
getting.
did you get that from?
Expand on that.
You know, cornflakes was invented. You know what? I'm gonna look this up real quick. We gotta look this up.
Wow, dude!
Definitely.
Just when we're getting ready to bring the curtain down on things, Scott hits us with the cornflake masturbation conspiracy.
Nice.
It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy.
Two guys at Kellogg's got together.
Oil is just a name that they can call this thing olive oil. It doesn't even have to have olive oil in it.
Don't lie, that comes from olive oil. I know that.
No, I'm telling you, you're buying stuff at the store that says olive oil in it. It's a product
Jimmy,
called
nothing you can
oil.
say right now. There's nothing anybody can say at this point that is going to detract from what Scott is about to throw at us here.
I'm just trying to give them minutes to find it.
No, I got it. Here we go. Okay, so
holy shamoly.
So cornflakes was created by John Harvey Kellogg in 1894 as a food that he thought would be healthy for the patients of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. So cornflakes was invented to feed people in a psychiatric facility.
Did they put something in that to make your Johnson flag? Those dirty, pesky bastards.
Well, I believe he was a. Let me look here. He was a Seventh-day Adventist. Kellogg was.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, he was. He had a partner also. I can't remember Elijah. I can't remember his name, but yeah, very, very, heavy into it.
And now they've made these genetically modified corns into these tasty flakes that you pour the cancer fueling white sugar over the top of to make it at least palatable for you to go, gag it down for a second. You know what I mean? It's crazy, man.
I'm keen on hearing more about this from Scott. Come on, where have you gone? Scott's camera's gone. Kellogg's cut
okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you
fine,
dude. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, let's see here. I'm trying to find.
Let's see.
Okay, so Dr. Kellogg introduced Kellogg's cornflakes in hope that it would reduce dyspepsia, and in accordance with the practice of the Seventh-day Adventists, masturbation and sexual intercourse. So he believed that cornflakes would reduce those carnal urges that would cause you to sin.
What?
And so that's how it was marketed.
Oh, I think he doth protest too much. I think Kellogg has some kind of kink on for cornflakes.
Well, all I know is, they put some saltpeter up in there and keep those flaccid members flaccid up in the penitentiaries and in the like when you're in the pen and they give you they call it shit on a shingle. It's basically this thin beef in this white sauce that they put over white bread. It's filled with saltpeter and all this other stuff in there.
Nice.
Because they need to keep the penises soft.
Yes.
In prison.
Indeed. Like I prefer my cornflakes soft, Scott.
I do too, actually.
Yes,
there's a pill for that, man. There's a pill now. They have one.
Right. You keep that for the Cougar Club on the After Hours show.
I've never needed it, and
hang on. Scotty's got more on this story. Scotty, come on, fill us in, man.
Well, I was gonna say, there's a whole thing about cereal. It's almost, I guess you could call it the cereal conspiracy.
See, I told you.
Yeah. So there is a thing where the agenda to push cereal as a breakfast in the morning is a actual nefarious plan.
Yep. You see, it got us away from that manly fried cooked breakfast onto this soy boy equivalent that takes the testicles off us, literally. Joe, who knew?
Yes.
Yep. Joe, who knew that they went after the breakfast to come after us men?
It's very interesting. I found something on this too. Mental Floss kind of did a big thing on this. It says in the 18th and 19th centuries, the Western world worked itself up into a mass hizzy fit over the idea of people touching themselves. Judeo-Christian tradition has already been damning masturbation as a misuse of sexuality for ages, but Victorian-era prudishmen of the Great Awakening and other religious revivals in America created a perfect storm for people to really get obsessed with it. Books like the anonymously authored Anonia, or The Heinous Sin of Self-Pollution and All Its Frightful Consequences, and Samuel Tissot's treatise on the disease produced by onanism, laid the groundwork for medicalizing the, quote, solitary vice. Now, soon masturbation was no longer just a moral failing, but also a physical and mental ailment that required treatments and cures. So here's Kellogg's cure to it. In the United States, one of the loudest anti-masturbation voices was a Michigan physician named John Harvey Kellogg. The good doctor was a bit uncomfortable about sex, thinking it detrimental to physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. He personally abstained from it and never consummated his marriage.
Whoa.
And may have actually spent his honeymoon working on his anti-sex books. He and his wife kept separate bedrooms and adopted all of their children. Sex with your wife was bad, but masturbation was even worse. Quote, if illicit commerce of the sexes is a heinous sin, Kellogg wrote, self-pollution is crime doubly abominable. In Plain Facts for Old and Young, Embracing the Natural History and Hygiene of Organic Life, Kellogg cataloged 39 different symptoms of a person plagued by masturbation, including general infirmity, defective development, mood swings, fickleness, bashfulness, boldness, bad posture, stiff joints, fondness for spicy foods, acne, palpitations, and epilepsy.
Who knew?
Kellogg's solution to all this suffering was a healthy diet. He thought that meat and certain flavorful or seasoned foods increased sexual desire, and that plainer food, especially cereal and nuts, could curb it. While working as a superintendent at Michigan's Battle Creek Sanitarium, he hit upon a few different healthy eating ideas. 2 became breakfast staples, and 1, thankfully, did not. Early in his tenure at the sanitarium, Kellogg created a healthy treat for the patients that consisted of oatmeal and cornmeal baked into biscuits and then ground into tiny pieces. He called it granula. This was maybe the worst name imaginable, since a very similar product with the exact same name was already being made and sold by James Caleb Jackson, another dietary reformer. Under the threat of lawsuits, Kellogg changed the name of his creation to granola.
No.
Another of Kellogg's dietary innovations developed to ensure clean intestines was an enema machine that ran water through the bowel and then followed it with a pint of yogurt.
Oh, don't tell Jordan Seather there's an enema machine. He'll be piling coffee enemas up the lot of us by the time the sun comes up, dude.
Yeah. Half delivered through the mouth and the other half through the anus.
Whoa.
This one didn't really catch on. But later, Kellogg developed a different flaked grain breakfast cereal, including corn flakes, as healthy, ready-to-eat, anti-masturbatory morning meals. He partnered with his brother Will, the sanitarium's bookkeeper, to make and sell them in public. Will had less interest in the dietary purity and more business sense than his brother, and worried that the product wouldn't sell as they were. He wanted to add sugar to the flakes to make them more palatable, but John wouldn't hear it. Will eventually started selling the cereals through his own business, which became the Kellogg Company. The brothers continued to feud for decades after. Masturbators who enjoyed cornflakes can probably attest that the sugar was a good idea, since Kellogg's cereal doesn't really have its intended effect. Now, while cereals and yogurt enemas might have kept most people in line, Kellogg also supported more extreme measures, like stuff that would get your medical license revoked today and lead to many, many lawsuits. For people with particularly nasty masturbation habits. For boys, he suggested threading silver wire through the foreskin to prevent erections and cause irritation. For girls, he advocated and sometimes employed an application of carbolic acid to the clitoris to burn and discourage touching it.
Whoa!
Jesus.
Yeah. So that's a little bit on Kellogg and his background.
Well, I'll never eat cereal for breakfast again.
But that was it. He thought that the plainer the food, it wouldn't feed into those bad habits, those carnal habits.
I still don't get where that level of thinking comes from, Jimmy, but I'm sure he had kind of good reason for it.
Well, there's a lot to be said about the orgasm and the energy that comes out of both male and female. And there's a lot of people that believe that you only have so many ejaculations in you in life. And at some point, you get to that last ejaculation, because that is life energy.
Do you reckon that's true?
I do actually think that's true.
Joe's nodding as well.
That's why it says don't spill the seed. or whatever is because, if you look at some of these ancient writings from China, some of these dudes, and even sexual practices such as tantric sex, is where you never achieve the ejaculation point, that you reach this climax of energy and you're pulling the kundalini up through you. You and your partner are generating this energy field, but that you don't have the ejaculation. What you do is you suck those energies back up through, your grounding point, up through the spine.
Told you, man. Dr. Jimmy. PhD in love. I'm telling you, man. Telling you, dude. No,
it's intense, man. But I mean, masturbation. See, when you think
I'd never
about
ever thought though, but I'd never thought that we have like this golden number that when we reach that number, that's the end of it. As you can tell, there's obviously a look of concern on my face, and I'm away to do some rapid math right after this show. Joe, I'm quite worried here now, listening to all of this. Just saying,
Well, the thing about it is, you got to think about this from a, like we're in an alternative echo chamber, the conspindustry. So we hear a lot of talk.
Not much talk like this, Jimmy. Granted, there is not much talk like this, but isn't it interesting, boys? Here we are. We've somehow fallen into like masturbation and cornflakes and things, and we have 220 people hanging solidly here of our every word. And Jimmy, just before I give it back to you, somebody says, what kind of channel is this I've fallen into? Even I can't answer that question right now. I have no idea how we got here, but Jimmy, you're going to take us deeper into the rabbit hole.
I am. And because if you take the overlay that we all hear about of this depopulation agenda, okay, the killing off of the majority of the useless eaters, you got 550,000 left to service the, whoever it is, happens to have all the money. Right? So when you think about porn, and if you've ever looked at those statistics, the analytics of Pornhub, of how many people go to Pornhub in a single 3-minute period, okay, most masturbation at this point, the reason that men psychologically have a problem in bed for the most part of lasting a long time is because they've been trained through this porn to ejaculate quietly, masturbate as quickly as possible, finish their business, and get on with life. And so because of all these 3-minute periods that have hours and hours and hours worth of watching time over somebody's lifetime, and you think about all the orgasms or the ejaculations that happen and how many millions and millions and millions and millions of people have not been born.
I can safely say I never spend any time thinking about all of that activity that's going on in the background.
How many people have not been born as a result of condoms,
I hear you, dude. I hear you.
Condoms, abortion, and masturbation.
Well, that, and then again, like you said, the energy thing really plays hard because this is not just, it's not just the physical realm that we're dealing with here, but also the spiritual realm as well. And it's funny you say that because Ange just gave me she just gave me her Bible, and she opened up to a page that kind of expresses what's happening in these days. Listen to this. This is what's called the Great Apostasy, and it was written way before the Catholic Church was ever around. But like right now, you see this whole the sexual the manipulation and abuse of altar boys and nuns and all this kind of stuff. Well, listen to this. Now, the Spirit expressly says that in latter times, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from foods which God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. And of course, they're speaking about Lent. For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be refused. for it is sanctified by the word of God and prayer. So, very interesting that when you do these things that run counter to our natural instincts, it ends up having a detrimental effect. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, these effects happen because these energies, these are, to me, when if I was to hear something called the original sin, and I think about the garden, and I think about the knowledge of good and evil and the difference between good and evil, what I think about is the Gnostic fall from the fourth to the third dimension that happened as a result of sexual energy being used merely for pleasure instead of strictly for creating or as creative energy. And that was the original sin. And the spinning and the spilling of that energy for no reason, it doesn't matter. Everybody's masturbated to some porn, so nobody can say they haven't. But the point is that's not bad.
Mr. Kellogg.
Not that that's bad. It's just saying that there's no difference between Pornhub is social media, just like Facebook is. Okay, Pornhub can train people to what is attractive to them, to what they should want to have sexually, because they see all these videos of people doing these specific things. It's not that people want to do those things. They just think that the opposite sex wants to do it, and they think that it feels good for some reason because they see all these people doing it. It's a simple social programming mechanism. It's spilling seeds all over the place. People aren't being born. Einsteins aren't being born. Kev Bakers aren't being born. Joe Joseph, Scotty Lopez. People aren't being born that could be saving the planet right now. And it's all what I'm saying. It's the depopulation agenda or whatever.
Yeah, it is. And on that note, boys, we are out of time. We like to stay for 2 hours, but in the UK, you've actually stayed for 3, even though it's only been 2, because our clock did go forward 4 minutes ago. And it really did confuse me.
Time travel.
Yeah,
we have a whole bunch of time travelers that just kind of.
That's right.
You actually watched me go an hour into the future, literally, and nothing. You see how quick it was? Nothing changed, guys. I was that quick.
See, told you. When you fall beyond,
I just pressed the flux capacitor.
You don't even realize.
Time ninja. That's it, man. Yep. So is that? Have we got any final parting thoughts, Joe? What's your parting kind of knowledge for the audience today before we play ourselves out with that robo porn music that our audience are so accustomed to now?
Ready? In all your endeavors in life, whatever be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole.
Oh, nice. I like that. Jimmy, one-liner, quickly, go. No, he's muted up. We're out of here, folks. Until tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow. Joe's taking a night off. Not sure about the other guys, but I will be back tomorrow. And Popeye's taking a night off as well, but there'll still be lots of shit. Back. Yeah, there'll be lots of shit for us to get into. We'll spend more time tomorrow interacting with the chat as well. We'll get a lot of your topics. We'll start talking about them. We'll get Google Earth up. We'll go on a mystery tour. But until then, folks, keep it real. Question everything. And keep your mind open. Keep that head well open, but not to the point where your brain falls out. Until next time, keep it real.